I work with 2 platform businesses that collectively bought 30 MSPs last year. We help 1,000 MSPs to grow or sell. Here's what they actually tell me they're looking for through that buyer's process. What we need to be looking at here is what really matters in your business today. It's not an easy thing to do to grow an MSP successfully. When you get dragged and pulled down into the business as usual, the firefighting, answering questions ineffectively because you don't have time. We need to really think about, what do we want this business to look like? This all comes down to planning. So the planning means that we want to be looking at 5 to 10 years ahead and then working our way back. Then we break that down into actionable steps year on year, and then we break that down into quarters. Quarterly actionable steps that are smart and effective to the business, and now we need other team members on board in delivering these smart objectives. The power of them being on board and helping you to drive your business forward, quarter in, quarter out, is going to make so much difference to your business than you fixing that mouse that isn't working for the customer today. So really think about what's your highest and best use in the business, and only spend your time on delivering that highest and best use, and only if it makes a difference to the valuation and the actual success of this business today. Because it doesn't have to be a sale, it could actually be where you're just not as involved in the business and you have a lifestyle that you want at the end of this first chapter of your journey. In consulting, where would we go with this? So we've been building a framework to say, what does your valuation need to be at the end? Moving this backwards into yearly steps, and then taking this next 12 months. So now you've got a valuation for the next 12 months. We need to now break that down. Instead of saying we're just going to add X amount of revenue, we need to now say what different services are we going to actually increase by what percentages. Now we've got the service percentage increases, we now need to think about what's the difference in cost. So software alignment to those services, labor alignment to those services. Does it change the organizational structure? And so we need more team members to manage and lead those teams. So we want team leaders, we want managers that are coming in place. All of this resource planning will fit into that value creation plan, and the revenue growth will sit there as well. This then is going to make a more concrete understanding of where you need to go over the next 12 months. Now we break that down into the next monthly installments of how you're going to increase that. When we think about the asset we've talked about before, about rule of 78, we need to break that MRR number down into the rule of 78. Putting it down into 78 quarters on an Excel sheet to get us that monthly MRR increase. If the rule of 78 is new to you, we have a template for this. I'm going to link that below for you to use straight away. Key thing they're really looking for is how mature is this business and how much is the owner involved in the day-to-day running of this business. So let's break this down. So think about the owner. Are you involved in all the strategic accounts, the sales, the revenue growth, the operational delivery, the finance function? Can monthly invoices leave this business without you being involved? And where does this actually land? It lands with you. If it lands with you today, this is a key problem when you come to sell your business, because straight away they're going to give you an adjustable EBITDA multiple. What does that mean? That means that they're going to look at how much is it going to cost them to bring an account manager, a finance person, an operations manager, a strategic person into this business, and they're going to value that as a salary and put that straight against your bottom line as a cost. They're also going to look at the risk in this business. If you own all the strategic accounts and the growth and the revenue that you're showing them, even that is best in class actual setup, they're going to say you are the key person in this business. And so the risk to them is significant when you leave this business. Because of this, they're going to reduce your multiples down. The other angle we're looking at here is systems, processes, and people inside your business. So if we've got really solid systems and processes that everybody is following strategically in the business, and we can evidence this and prove that this has been happening for more than 2 years, this is going to increase the value of the business, because they know we've got a well-oiled engine that is repeatable without you in this business to then drive forward, and this is the asset they're buying at the end of the day. Without that repeatable engine, they will create lots of risk in this business, And understanding that, they're going to start breaking it down even more. So they're going to dig into a lot of the numbers, especially if we don't have history, and they're going to tag risk to certain numbers and reduce down the valuation of the business because of that. So what do they actually look for? Exactly what we're doing in consulting. They're looking at a mature MSP that the owner has extracted himself from the day-to-day, and he's just leading the strategy and the mentoring of the team, and the day-to-day running of this business is just an engine that runs without them. That is how you're going to get the highest multiple for this business at the time you want to sell. Another key thing here that we need to look at that is often overlooked, that seems very simple, is contracts. Often you love a new shiny toy. So you've changed CPQs, you've changed sell tools over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Every time you change those sell tools, you're losing the contract signatures and the contract dates that have been built into those tools, and we've not migrated them into the PSA or another sell tool to continue them on. We're working with a number of customers right now that have actually got a problem where they can't evidence how many customers they've got, how many of those customers have got what services, and how many of those services have got contracts that have got signatures, wet signatures, and end dates on them. When you think about a buyer, that is the ultimate thing that they're buying. They're buying your client base. And so they need to know that when you leave and that relationship leaves through the front door, they have contracts that are binding that customer to continue service with them. They need to know that revenue is going to continue coming into this business. And we are seeing a massive hole at the minute where a lot of MSPs cannot evidence the amount of services and the signed documents that they have against those services to equal the value. This needs correcting quickly in your MSP, because it's no good doing it when you're going through due diligence, because a percentage of those customers may actually not re-sign, and now we've got a different valuation. So it's definitely something we need to be planning 2-3 years out to make sure we've got those active contracts with signatures, and the longer the contract, the better. A lot of people are moving from monthly to 12 monthly to 3 yearly, and on occasions 5 yearly contracts, to ensure we've got that longevity with the customer when we come to sell. This is going to really increase the valuation of the business. So we talked a little bit there about due diligence. Let's just dig into that. Due diligence is all about having concrete evidence of everything that you've told them at the very start. If you don't have this concrete evidence, this number that they've given you, and let's face it, you've probably already spent that money, is now going to come back on you, and they're going to reduce that down every time they see something that doesn't match that story that you told them. So what am I talking about here? We're talking about contracts that we've talked about, wet signatures, dates on them, client lists that are happy. So when was the last time you did an NPS survey? Do you have active CSAT surveys? Do you understand your P&L, your balance sheet, your budget variance, and how far does that go back? We want to be looking at 3 to 5 years of history and evidence. We want to make sure we know our numbers around profitability and costs in the business. And we want to make sure we've identified any risks. Most buyers now, it's not their first rodeo. They have bought other MSPs, especially if you're talking to private equity. They have a whole function inside their business that is going to do this due diligence. And it's like you would do when you're onboarding or you're auditing a new customer. They know exactly what they're looking for, and so you're not going to hide the thing that you think you're going to hide. If you've got a customer that's at risk, or something that's coming to the end date, or customers that are not happy, they're going to see this. Because if you've not done things like an NPS scoring, they will enforce that. They will make sure they use a platform that you cannot alter and send that out to your customers. Equally, they'll look at your team. Have you ever done an EPS scoring? They will look at the internal team sentiment and how happy they are working for you inside this business. All of these different strategies and systems that they use will unfold anything that you haven't told them. So actually have all of this in place before you're even ready 2-3 years out, and be very clear and honest with yourself about risks, documentation, processes and numbers to understand what this actual asset is before you even step into the place of putting this on market, because they will find out. So when it comes to NPS, let's dig into that a little bit, what you're looking for. So believe it or not, the average response rate for an NPS is lower quartile, about 10 to 15%, and an acceptable response rate is 20. So when we're thinking about this, we need to make sure we're hitting those numbers when you're sending those surveys out. Very similar for CSAT. A lot of people talk about we got X percentage of greens. Actually, that's just a vanity number. What we want to be looking at is how many neutrals and negatives did we get? And are we documenting those, and are we making a improvement plan that's documented to drive them forward and turn them into greens? That shows that you're being proactive and mature about the CSAT process. And we want to be looking at around 60% response rate for your CSATs. Lots of MSPs don't get that type of response rate because they don't have a strategy in the business to drive that forward. It's not just an operational delivery to drive the CSAT, it's also things like account management, strategic business reviews, that we need to be demonstrating to the customers how we use that CSAT to make ourselves better and how important it is for our business. That will drive the response rate up. So for an NPS and CSAT, if we're not doing them, we need to start doing them. If we're not getting the response rates that we want to get today, we need to be driving that forward as a strategy and communication to our customers, and not focusing on just the vanity metrics of how many greens we get today. So up to now, we've talked about selling the business and setting the business up ready for a sale. But actually, I hear a lot of past owners that have gone through this whole strategy of selling the business because that is what success looks like. They're only successful to themselves once they've sold. And now they've sold, on the other side, it doesn't look as good as they thought it did. It's not as successful in their own heads. And now they're actually struggling to have an identity and a purpose, and they're starting again into another business. So actually, when we're thinking about selling, we want to make sure it's not an emotional sell. The worst time to sell your business is when you're tired and your energy is low, or you fell out with the business. It needs to be a strategic sell. So the opposite way is not to sell. So why would you not sell? Actually, what we can do here is move away from being a business owner into a strategy. What we need to be doing is dividing the business up into a leadership model. So this is all about delegating and helping people to be accountable and being the mentor rather than everything landing on your doorstep. Typically, as a business owner, all answers have to come from you. All strategy decisions come from you. All budget decisions come from you. And that's because none of this is written down, none of this is mentored into the team, and none of this is delegated because actually you feel like you need to have control and you have to take it back all the time. So about really having a strategy in your business about where are you spending your time, is it mentoring and spending time with the people and building strategies and systems and processes to deliver without you being around? Now what we've got is one of the outcomes that people want from selling. It's about having a different lifestyle, about not being tied to the business, about not doing 60 hours a week consistently. What we've now got is an engine and a leadership team and a strategy and budgets and mentoring in place to mean you can step away from the business and go and have that lifestyle, as well as owning the business and still extracting money from the business as an asset to keep that pushing forward, but also keep your lifestyle the way you want. This is another route to success. It doesn't have to be about selling, but we can run the business as though it's ready for sale, which will mean we can actually step away from it because it's going to be mature and we're going to have a leadership team that delivers without you in place every day, firefighting and doing the 60 hours a week. So in summary, what I typically see here is what you're avoiding massively impacts your business. So really try and change your mind to be the things you're avoiding today need to be the highest things on your list to deliver to the business. You're typically avoiding the things that are difficult and not exciting and aren't in your comfort zone. Those are the things that the buyers are going to unfold in your business. Or if you're not selling, those are the things that are going to drag you into the business and not allow you to have the lifestyle that you want on the next chapter. So really focus on the things that you're avoiding in the business today, consciously or subconsciously, and start chunking them down and delivering them with your team in your business to make the biggest difference to the asset that you're promising to yourself and your family. Believe it or not, there's actually a lot of content that we've not covered today around sales, R&D process, white space analysis, and going after your easiest sale, which is your existing customers. If you want to learn more about this, we've got a great asset called the MSP $1 Million Playbook. I'm going to link that below for you.